Frontline Updates, where we delve deep into military strategies and updates from conflict zones. Today, we're discussing the progress of the ongoing special military operation as of September 25, 2024. I'm your host, Shariafa Mohammed, MGT.
I'm Colonel A.C. Oguntoye, an infantry officer. Support operations, the operational tactical aviation, UAVs, missile forces, and artillery units continue to target Ukrainian infrastructure, including a radio communications center, UAV production workshops, and concentrations of military forces across 153 districts. Air defense systems successfully neutralized several aerial threats, including guided bombs and rockets.
Welcome to Frontline Updates podcast. Today, we have Colonel A.C. Oguntoye with us, who is here to provide a detailed update on the progress of the special military operation as of September 25, 2024. Colonel Oguntoye, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to share the latest updates on our operations.
Let's start with the North Group of Forces. What actions have they undertaken recently, and what were the outcomes?
The North Group has been actively engaging Ukrainian forces in both the Sumy and Kharkiv regions. They targeted the 21st Mechanized, 57th Motorized Infantry Brigades, the 36th Marine Brigade, and the 113th Territorial Defense Brigade in areas like Barylo, Lipsy, and Vovchansk. In addition, they repelled 3 counterattacks from the 82nd Airborne Assault Brigade of Ukraine. The Ukrainian forces suffered significant losses, including up to 120 servicemen, 3 tanks, various combat vehicles, and multiple artillery units, such as the 122mm Grad multiple launch rocket systems and several howitzers.
It sounds like the North Group has been quite effective. What about the West Group of Forces? How have they been progressing?
The West Group has occupied more advantageous lines and positions, focusing on weakening Ukrainian forces in key locations like Kupiansk and Lozovaya in the Kharkiv region. They engaged the 14th, 28th, and 116th Mechanized Brigades, along with the 115th Territorial Defense Brigade. They repelled 3 counterattacks by the 66th Mechanized Brigade, resulting in the enemy losing 390 servicemen, multiple vehicles, and an array of artillery, including Czech-made Vampire multiple launch rocket systems and several American and British-made howitzers. 2 electronic warfare stations and 4 ammunition depots were also destroyed during these actions.
The West Group seems to be making significant headway. What are the latest developments from the Southern Group of Forces?
The Southern Group of Forces has achieved notable successes, including liberating the settlements of Ostro and Grigorovka in the Donetsk People's Republic. They defeated the 24th and 54th Mechanized Brigades of Ukraine and the 119th Territorial Defense Brigade in areas like Nikolaevka and Kurakovo. The Ukrainian forces lost up to 835 troops, along with several vehicles and advanced artillery systems, such as the British-made FH-70 howitzer and multiple US-made artillery units. In addition, 7 ammunition depots were destroyed, significantly weakening Ukrainian logistical capabilities.
That's quite a substantial impact. How have the Center Group of Forces been contributing to the operation?
The Center Group continues to push deeper into enemy defenses, targeting brigades like the 23rd Mechanized Brigade and the 12th National Guard Brigade. They repelled 10 counterattacks by Ukrainian assault groups, including the 25th Airborne and 68th Jaeger Brigades. These actions resulted in significant losses for the Ukrainian forces, with up to 580 servicemen killed, alongside the destruction of several armored combat vehicles, artillery units, and other equipment.
And what about the East Group of Forces? What have been their key engagements?
The East Group of Forces has been improving their positions along the front line, focusing on Ukrainian brigades such as the 33rd Mechanized and 58th Motorized Infantry Brigades. They repelled 3 counterattacks by Ukrainian forces, including the 72nd Mechanized Brigade. The enemy suffered losses of up to 135 servicemen, along with the destruction of advanced artillery like the British-made FH-70 and the French-made Caesar howitzer.
Let's shift to the DNEPR Group of Forces. What role have they been playing recently?
The Dnipro Group has been targeting Ukrainian airborne assault and marine brigades in the Zaporizhia and Kherson regions, specifically in settlements like Zarabyanka and Veselo. Their actions led to the loss of up to 30 Ukrainian servicemen, several vehicles, and key artillery pieces like the 152mm MSTB howitzers. Additionally, they destroyed an ammunition depot, further disrupting Ukrainian supply lines.
It seems like all the groups are deeply engaged. Can you tell us about the broader support provided by aviation, missile forces, and artillery?
Our operational tactical aviation, UAVs, missile forces, and artillery have been actively targeting Ukrainian military infrastructure. They inflicted damage on critical facilities, including a radio communications center, UAV production workshops, and enemy troop concentrations in 153 districts. Air defense systems have also been highly effective, shooting down 4 French-made Hammer-guided bombs, 14 HIMARS rockets, and various UAVs.
Finally, can you summarize the overall impact of these operations in Ugledar?
Russian troops have broken into Ugledar from the east and are clearing out the city blocks. It would be a mistake to say that Ugledar is an easy walk, but soon the story with the Ukrainian armed forces here will be over. Apparently, the 72nd Brigade of the Ukrainian Armed Forces and the troops subordinated to it have gradually begun to move away from the western and northern outskirts of the city towards Bogoyevlenka. Not en masse, not in an organized manner, not quickly. But they have begun. Little by little. The nearest quiet hole is about 9 kilometers away along paths and plantings. About 13 kilometers along the same routes to neighboring Novokrenka. The problem is that it is not so easy to dig in these villages. In the next 2 weeks, the Russian army may begin working there, so you should not expect a long stay in the new place.
That's a substantial impact. What's happening in the Kursk region?
Russian army soldiers continue to reduce the enemy's military equipment in the Kursk region. In one day, the guys destroyed at least 7 units of enemy armored vehicles, including 3 tanks and this lingering armored personnel carrier, which was enthusiastically burned by our X-men. Over the past 24 hours, the armed forces of Ukraine have suffered the following losses: over 300 troops, 7 armored vehicles, 3 tanks, including 2 German-made Leopard tanks, an infantry fighting vehicle, and 3 armored fighting vehicles, 2 artillery guns, and 6 motor vehicles.
We can paraphrase the clarifications in the documents on the use of nuclear weapons and fit it all into one sentence. Then we can say the following. Any non-nuclear state that attacks the Russian Federation and receives support, directly or indirectly, from a nuclear state, gets its share of several thousand Hiroshimas and Nagasaki's on par with the one, and in some cases, even ahead of the nuclear country, who advised this non-nuclear country to go to war against Russia. What are the implications for global security?
These proposed clarifications and expansions suggest a more assertive and potentially aggressive nuclear posture by Russia. By broadening the conditions for nuclear deterrence, Russia is signaling a willingness to use nuclear weapons in response to a wider array of threats, including indirect or proxy conflicts involving nuclear powers. This could escalate tensions and risks in international security, especially in conflicts involving alliances like NATO, where nuclear and non-nuclear states cooperate closely. Overall, the remarks highlight a shift towards a more flexible and expansive approach to nuclear deterrence, with potentially far-reaching consequences for global nuclear strategy and stability.
Colonel, thank you for providing such a detailed briefing on the current military situation. Your insights are invaluable to our understanding of the conflict's dynamics. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in. Join us next time as we continue to provide up-to-date coverage on global military affairs. Stay with us for more updates and expert analyses on global defense and security issues. Stay informed, stay secure.
Thank you for having me. It's important to keep the public informed about the progress of these critical operations. Israel's offensive rests on an assumption, a gamble, that a point will come when Hezbollah will crumple, retreat from the border, and stop firing into Israel. Most observers of Hezbollah believe it will not stop. Fighting Israel is the main reason why Hezbollah exists. That means Israel, just as reluctant to admit defeat, would have to escalate the war further. If Hezbollah continued to make northern Israel too dangerous for Israeli civilians to return home, Israel would have to decide whether to launch a ground offensive, probably to capture a strip of land to act as a buffer zone.